Good morning, everybody. My name's Levi, and I'd like to tell y'all a little bit about bamboo houses today. So, what they do to attach them is they'll use them by lashing. And lashing is whenever they take and they either slice a little hole in it or they'll drill a whole little hole in it and they'll run rope through it and tie it to another one. And it's mostly used for like corner edges, but occasionally they'll use it throughout the whole house. But I've noticed that bamboo houses are mostly in tropical and subtropical parts like Southeast Asia and South America and stuff like that, and the lower part down around in Florida, because that's where bamboo is mostly from. And down around in there, they would, instead of using like screws and stuff, they'll just use the lashing to attach the whole house. And durability, it's pretty sturdy, honestly, for what it is. Like you would think that bamboo, where it being hollow and sometimes not as sturdy, it really is. But it does have a shorter lifespan because if it is in the weather a lot, like not growing, then it'll start shrinking and it'll lose water and then it'll start dying, rotting, and then you'll have to start replacing after it starts shrinking and all that stuff. So soil contact is not good either because unless it's treated, it will again start rotting where the soil it starts trying to pull water from it, and then the sun just drawing it out, and it'll start causing it to rot, which means you'll have to then start replacing them, and it just gets into a big hassle that is pretty not fun. Unless it's treated properly, then it'll last anywhere. If it's not treated, it'll last anywhere from around 2 to 3 years. But if it is treated properly and it's in the sun and the rain a lot, it'll last anywhere between 4 and 7, based on how much weather it's exposed to. So where it is hollowed out and it's really thin, it does make it easy to work with, especially if they don't have power tools. Like if they're having to use like hand tools and stuff, it does make it extra easy to work with. So bamboo is one of the most highly sought after biodegradable materials due to like where it grows, and it's not like it doesn't have many chemicals at all. It will degrade and it'll rot and go back into the ground, and then it'll use it itself as fertilizer for other plants and stuff like that. So a few other things I found was that, like in the quote unquote less fortunate places to have all the advanced materials, they will actually use the bamboo where they're hollowed out to for their water to catch water, run water to their houses, collect water for what they need it for, and all that stuff. They'll use it for like draining other things, and but most people like to use them to like build furniture and make just unique looking things that you don't see on an everyday basis just throughout their home to kind of give it extra texture and make it look a little neater. So bamboo is one of the fastest growing living things in the world. It can grow anywhere from like just say starting out to up to 98 feet tall is what I found. And then it can grow from anywhere from 2 to 3 inches all the way up to 10 to 12 inches in diameter around, which I thought was pretty neat because that's pretty big for it to be so hollow. And bamboo is actually really light. It's super lightweight, and but what I found interesting about that was where it is so light per inch, it out like it'll withhold up to 5,000 more pounds than steel will. It'll hold up to, I think it said 28,000 pounds per inch, and steel was only like 23. I believe it was. So bamboo, it grows like rhizomes, I think is how you say it, underneath the ground, and those will hold water, and bamboo will grow off of itself instead of like having to be planted and watered and all that stuff. It'll just grow off itself on its own, which will cause a rapid growth, which makes for a good privacy. But on the other hand, it can become overwhelming because of how fast it grows, how rapid it grows, and like just takes over everything. So I've noticed that every time I would type in like bamboo just to search up something, that it would come up with fences, because a lot of people love the way that bamboo looks and they will use it for property line fences or privacy fences. But another thing with the fences is the soil contact again. You have to build it up off the soil to keep it from collecting water and expanding, contracting, and then having to replace it and stuff, especially if you're using it for privacy. Because if it starts shrinking, then you're going to have gaps in your fence, which is going to allow people to see in, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a privacy fence. So here's another thing that I was just talking about with the water, the rhizomes and stuff. They will collect, the rhizomes will collect the water and they'll shoot out columns. And either it'll be just a bunch of little columns collecting water, or occasionally they'll shoot out more bamboo that will grow into a bamboo tree. And it is pretty much just how they get water. And that will hold water underneath the soil too, just to that way they still have it. One of the things I found about the insulation was different. Instead of using like spray foam or anything like that, they will take and they'll build a frame out of lashing. They'll connect it, and then they'll take like sacks and bags and stuff. And found that one of the most common used ones was rice hulk or loose straw to put in the bags to fill up, and then they'll sandwich the bags between two frames on bamboo, and they'll lash the frames together, which causes, which is how they use their insulation, which I thought was pretty neat because you don't see that at all really around in this area. So bamboo was down where it's around in the tropical, it's always blowing around, moving around, and where it's so tall, it's really bendy and stuff. And then it's also like mainly grown around earthquake prone lands, which is makes it move a lot more. So that means it's like very flexible and you can bend it to create different things. You can move it around, you can connect it at different points for like different designs and all that stuff, which I thought was really neat. So if you treat it right, it can be fire resistant, but I found that it is fire resistant up for just so long anyways, where it holds water so good whenever it collects it, because the water will fight off the fire and it makes it fire resistant for a certain period of time, but it will catch fire eventually if you hold it in it long enough or if it's exposed long enough. But people can treat it to make it fire resistant for even longer, which is normally about anything. But I just thought where it was automatically fire resistant on its own was pretty neat. And here's the thing I was talking about earlier with the shrinkage. Like if it's exposed to the high sun, then where it heats up, dries out, and then expands and contracts a lot with the rain and stuff like that, it will shrink, which could cause major problems in the house, especially if you're having gaps where weather can come in, cold air, stuff like that can come in. It's not normally good to have shrinkage. So the roofs, they'll do the same thing, kind of like they did with the insulation. They'll take and they'll just layer. They'll make like this big frame out of a bunch of different ones by lashing, and they'll lay a bunch of straw underneath it. I found that it was mostly straw that they used. I couldn't really find anything else, but I did find every now and then that they would take and just do like a whole solid roof like they would a wall out of bamboo. But I found the straw was the most commonly used, and then they'll take and they'll lay the bamboo frames on top of it to kind of hold it down and keep it from blowing away and all that stuff. So bamboo poles are actually kind of cheap to be where they're in tropical regions and have to get shipped everywhere they go. I found that on Home Depot you could buy an 8 foot one by 2 inch diameter for around 12.61 a piece. And whenever I was looking it up, the prices, they said that the price range would range from anywhere between 8 to 10K up to like 50 around in that area, depending on the size of house, where it's at, and how much bamboo you're actually really needing to use. So it's a decently inexpensive home to build if you're just looking for something cheap and fast. So the build time where it's not really much connections and all that stuff, like you don't have to run many wires and all that crap depending on where you're at. It normally takes within 1 to 7 business or not business days, but 1 to 7 days where like you've got a good crew, a good amount of people working on it. then it shouldn't take you very long to get one put up and ready to live in. So the growth rate that I found was pretty quick because, like I said earlier, it's one of the fastest growing trees, and they can grow. That says 15 to 25, but I was looking earlier and it said up to 98 feet. But depending on where it's at, it can grow anywhere from those ranges and really fast. I think it said that it would grow up to like 3 to 4 feet a day, a week, occasionally, depending on like how much nutrition and stuff it gets. So another just fun fact that I found was it attracts snakes, and there's actually a snake named after bamboo. And I was trying to find like why it attracts them, but the only thing that I found was that this snake is really common in tropical areas, and where the leaves fall off of the bamboo, like this, what the snake eats is stays around in those areas, and so they just give it they give the snake the bamboo name because of like that's where it gets all of its food and its lives and stuff is around bamboo areas. And it's really pet friendly. If you do build with it, you don't have to worry about it harming your pets. And they make different things for pets out of bamboo. But that's just another fun fact I found was like just out of because I know most people have pets and they care more about their pets a lot of times and they don't want them to get hurt or harmed or any way. And that was just a fun fact I found that they're really pet friendly. They can be harmful to humans. Most people won't eat them, but you can take eat them, but they have to be properly processed and prepped to be detoxified. Because if they're not detoxified, then they will cause cyanide in your stomach, which will make you really sick. Could possibly kill you. And this was just a few structures I found to look really neat. And another thing that I was going to talk about was how they build their headers. If you notice in this picture right here in the top left, you can see how they've got like the cross piece right here at the windows. So what they'll do is they'll build up on the sides and then they'll just lay one cross piece across the top to kind of support it a little more and give it like more structural strength. And you can see with the doors and stuff. This one down here you can see a little better in the bottom right. And then I found this one in the top right that has like the metal framing that I thought was really cool looking. And I thought that was really neat how they could take and just diagonal each one to face a different direction. I love the way that looks. It's so cool. And that's everything.
Good. So you said that it lasts 4 to 7 years. Is that what I understood you to say?
Yeah, that's like the typical range for it based on like weather and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like if it's exposed to a lot of sun, that'll cause it to shrink and then it'll start rotting. And like if it's exposed to a lot of rain and sun, the rain will start making it rotten over time. Like if you use it to build and it's not like in the ground where its roots and the rhizomes can collect the water, then it'll start rotting over time, and that makes it really soft. And then you'll have to replace it at that point. And that normally takes around 4 to 7 years based on how much it's really exposed to over the time.
So in something like this, we'd have to paint it or protect it to.
Uh, you could use like a coat over it just to make it like a little more water resistant. But yes, you would have to do something, or around 4 to 7 years, like the roof and stuff, where that one is not the straw, it'll start causing it to like rot away based on like how much rain and stuff it's exposed to. Which I thought that was really weird, especially considering the fact that it's in tropical areas. But I mean, I can understand where like if it's not still got its roots and stuff, it's not in the ground to where it can collect the water other places. It tries to hold it all in, and then once the sun dries it out and stuff, it just rapidly over time it'll start rotting it out.
Mhm.
That'll cause it to die away.
Do you have any idea how long is this like an annular ring on a tree, or how often, or does that even matter on a bamboo, or just
I couldn't find anything that really matters, but I did notice that on every picture I found that, and even in person, like whenever I see bamboo, they've always got those rings, but I'm not really sure what the purpose of those rings really are or why they're there or like what they're caused by or anything like that.
Could they be representative of a year's growth, like rings in a tree, maybe?
That's what I was thinking too, but maybe like where they grow at such a high rate that because I found that they can grow anywhere from like 3 to and up feet, like a week, a day, anything like that. So I'm not really sure because they grow. I think I seen where they grow to their max height in just a few months. Is what I was pretty sure I was seeing.
I thought the rings were structural, not annular. It provides flexibility and stability as they grow taller.
That
So
makes
is it just whenever it feels like it needs structure, it grows? I mean, does it have anything to do with the time frame or anything?
I didn't see anything that it did. No.
Even a very small bamboo shoot's going to have multiple rings, and that so it could be a week old. It could have multiple rings. Doesn't have anything to do with the years.
Interesting.
Just for clarification, and in case you said I was taking notes, so I probably missed it. Did you say they need to grow in moist climates or can they grow in dry climates? I missed that part.
Normally, like tropical, subtropical, temperate regions like that, down around in Southeast Asia and Southeast America and South America and just places like that is what I've found that they grow mostly in.
They are a water loving plant for sure. We used to call it creek cane, but because it always grow in a creek.
I've heard that one too.
But you're right. That darn stuff will take over in a heartbeat, and you can't exactly take a weed eater to it either.
No.
Eric, we've got native creek cane, and it's different than tropical bamboo. Our tropical bamboo is a invasive non-native species, and we got it all over Western North Carolina now. But that creek cane that you're talking about, that's a native species, and it's slightly different than the bamboo we're looking at that's being used to build these houses.
But it's still in the bamboo family.
Yeah, it's a grass.
Yeah. You're talking about the roof here. I have seen where they will build, they'll take bamboo and they'll build it much like a Spanish roof where they split them and do this. But like you say, unless you got some really big ones, that would be a lot of splitting.
But I did see that they would grow up to 10 to 12 inches in diameter. So if you could find the right forest of the big ones, then it wouldn't be that bad. And I did see a thing where they was doing that too on the walls that I thought was pretty neat. But I couldn't really find much information on it to really put it in there.
Are there any commercial companies that grow it and sell it, like for
I
construction?
did see commercial companies grow it like that. I did see that like they would get like shipments in like Home Depot and places like that would for decently inexpensive for what it is and how far it has to come typically. But no, I didn't see where anywhere would specifically grow it and sell it.
Okay. Be a good business to get into.
Yeah, if you could find the right places to get it.
Some of the largest that I've ever seen, if you ever go to Cherokee,
Yep.
Oconaluftee Park, which is right in the middle of Cherokee, there's an island, and the island is slam full of this stuff. And I think it's the invasive species because it is the biggest that I've ever seen.
There's some similar on the Chattahoochee north of Atlanta too.
Okay.
And similar big stands like that.
Yeah.
I pulled up some of the references that you were using on your presentation there, Levi. And one of the things that they're saying about those rings is that's scarring left from the leaf, that it's as the leaf stem grows out of that area, that scar is left on the exterior sheath of the bamboo, and that it does provide structural stability, which is why those rings get closer towards the bottom and farther apart towards the top.
You said you found that on one of my references? Because I didn't see anything about that.
You use the Guada bamboo,
Yeah, I did.
right? Yeah, that's what they're saying, is that that those nodes are a diaphragm between the internodes, and that's strengthening the stem. But that's, you know, where the branches stem off of the grass, and so it's kind of like a knot in a piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
So like here, where that is being produced there.
Exactly. So as those leaves drop, as those branches drop, it's just leaving a scar. That's where the ring is left. But they're closer together towards the ground and farther apart as the grass continues growing taller. It's a strength and stability thing too, providing structural stability, flexibility.
So, well, I guess that makes sense. No, leaves are not going to grow in the middle of this thing. They're just going to, they'll be right there.
That does make sense.
How do you hollow these things out?
They're already hollowed, is what I've found for most of them, is already hollowed. Like most of the smaller ones like that.
The ones that I've ever seen, and maybe that's something different, this goes all the way across, or, you know, these are like plugs.
I've had some too that like I've just found laying around and stuff.
Yeah.
And been hollowed out, and we didn't do anything to them. We just found them laying around in the woods and stuff. Because we would use like little fishing poles.
Yeah.
Because they're really strong. But everyone I've ever seen like found just laying around like that has been hollowed out. And I know that if you're trying to like break one down, like without any tools or anything, they are really hard to break. Where they're so flexible, they will not break at nothing.
If you're a Jackie Chan fan, there are very many movies where he's using bamboo to whip the shit out of somebody. And what happens is, and if you know, most all of his movies, he always has that thing at the end where, you know, it shows you all of his mistakes.
Oh, the bloopers.
The bloopers, that's right. So these things, after you beat them up a little bit, they shatter, because if you'll notice down here especially, they're hollow. They're just much like that, those straws, and they'll split, and they will pinch the crap out of your hands. So and it's pretty funny watching those bloopers and stuff, because he's all the time beating the crap out of himself and you know, everybody else too. Anybody else got any questions? Some of you guys are awful quiet.